Welcome back to another series of Women's Wellness That Works Expert Series. And I'm so excited today because I'm always excited, but today is a special day. One of my Grace Goddess sisters from Las Vegas is joining me today to share her journey in wellness and the cancer world. And this is something that is near and dear to my heart because I've known you, Amy, for like 16 years almost, right? It's been about 16 years. So first of all, welcome to Women's Wellness That Works. It's been a long time coming. We wanted you here for at least a year. So thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to finally be here with you after all these years.
I know. I mean, we are definitely connected in so many ways. And, this is a serious topic for pediatric cancer wellness. And I believe that you're a cancer wellness expert for so many reasons. And your story, people can actually watch your story on several different avenues, right? And we'll share about that where people can listen to you and listen about James' journey on social media. Now, my question to you is, when you first heard about the diagnosis, what was your first reaction, your first feeling at that time?
Oh, and with a big question right away.
I know. And I know it was the day that you and I were supposed to get together for a Grace Goddess gathering.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Takes me way back. It was absolutely a crazy morning the day before Easter in 2015 when James just woke up, screaming that his head hurt, and took him to the ER. And it wasn't there that we got the initial diagnosis. It was there that they said that they found something on his brain. And when you hear that, you're like, what do you mean something on my child's brain? He's, just turned 7 2 weeks earlier. And so when we actually got that, that was pretty devastating just to hear that, because you never think of something like that happening to your child. And then we got the actual diagnosis shortly thereafter of grade 4 glioblastoma, brain cancer. That was devastating.
And so it was stage 4. And let's preface, he was 7 years old at the time, right?
Yeah.
And so the only symptoms that you were aware of was he was having headaches, migraines or headaches.
Yeah, it started actually probably, I would say about 4 to 6 months prior, he started saying that he had a headache. And at that time he was 6. And he said, Mom, my head hurts. Mom, I have a headache. And I'm thinking, you're 6 years old. We live in the desert, drink more water. You must be dehydrated. That's kind of where my head went. And so that's just what I thought, was like, oh, he must be dehydrated. Cancer doesn't run in my family. It was never even a thought on my mind. I started to Google pediatric headaches, a 7-year-old with headaches. And to be completely honest, Google never once mentioned cancer.
Wow.
Which was shocking, because normally Google is you never want to Google, right? It's
right.
Case scenario. But in this case, it didn't say that. So I just was like, okay. But that was really his only symptom. Aside from, I went out of town twice during that time for only 2 or 3 days. And when I left him, he would vomit in the morning of me leaving town. And I just thought, part of my heart was like, oh, my mama's boy. He has anxiety from separation anxiety. And because he wasn't sick, he would just vomit and then go about his business. I didn't realize at the time that is a symptom of a brain tumor, is when you vomit in the morning along with the headaches. So,
wow. So, okay, you get diagnosed, then what? What was the next step?
So first we went to the ER where they said they found something. And I didn't realize how serious it was until they said, we're going to medevac you to UCLA. You're going to be flying out of state.
Remember that.
The next day, the very next day. And that was April 4th was the day we went to the ER. And on my birthday, April the 8th, was his first brain surgery. So it was 4 days and he was in brain surgery. And so out at UCLA, that's where we got the diagnosis of the grade 4 glioblastoma. And I can't even describe the feeling, and I'm smiling, I know, because I don't want to cry, but the feeling of when they tell you that about your child, it's so overwhelming. And the first thing I thought was, what do I do? And how do I get help?
Yeah.
That was pretty much it, is how do I get help? Because this is such an unknown world to me.
Right.
I've always,
as any mom who would, receive this devastating news of their child, I mean, I'm sure there was emotions and things running through your head, like, why is this happening to my child, first of all? And, maybe not the solutions right away, but, what do I do next? And I'm sure you had doctors and doctors and doctors. And, I was there with you, Richard and I were there at the ER, and then we were there when you went to UCLA. So I have some definitely a lot more information from you, but if you could share, I know it was so devastating, but one thing you did do is you reached out for help.
yes. It's kind of crazy how things happen when something like this happens in your life. I didn't realize that my life leading up to this was kind of planned. I didn't, and not my plan necessarily, but things in my life kind of led up to this. There was only one person that I had met through Facebook years prior, when we were both pregnant with our younger children, and her son had cancer. It was the only person that I'd ever known, never met her in person to this day. Only person I'd never known whose son had cancer. And 4 years prior to James getting diagnosed, I actually had a dream that James had the same cancer as her son, Tanner, which is what happened 4 years later. But She was the very first person I reached out to from the ER. And I'm like, okay, they found something in my kid's brain. Talk to me, help me out. So that was step one. She'd been in my life prior for 5 years. Then you happen to be in Las Vegas to be able to come to the ER. And then you happen to come to UCLA. And I'm like, oh, there's my angel Anne just following me around. And when you get that diagnosis, when I said, what's next? It's like all of a sudden, for me personally, my experience was, okay, I can cry and I can, be devastated, but then it's time to put the work boots on and get to work saving my child. And so I started thinking of all the resources and the people that I know that are connected to that kind of a community. And I don't know why, but I wasn't afraid at all to just say, help. I don't know what I'm doing. I literally don't know what I'm doing here, and I don't know what's going to happen. But you have experience, or you came to my mind. Anybody that crossed my mind, I reached out to.
And that's what I love about you is, at the time, I think also you had completed a leadership program. So you were very much open to possibilities, right? You were open to what could happen on a positive level. I mean, yes, this is devastating, but what can we do? What can we do to find solutions and people to support you? And I think it's challenging for people in general to ask for help, right? And that's what I love about it. I know you said to me, okay, I need you to be like my holistic, contact person, help me, figure out this, and this. And I said, of course, anything, I'll do anything for you. So you've used obviously Western medicine, allopathic medicine, and holistic and alternative medicines to combine with this treatment. So you said they did do the surgery, right? They removed the tumor. Yes. How is he feeling after that?
So he had 2 surgeries a week apart. They did the first surgery and they removed quite a bit of the tumor, but at that point they did not have the pathology. They didn't know how bad it was. The neurosurgeon kind of had an idea from looking at it, but once the pathology came back, he wanted to go back in and try to remove even more. It took about 4 days to get approval because he really wanted to go back in the hospital, and the insurance was like, no, you got as much as you could. And he's like, no, there's something special about this kid. I have to go back in. And so I went in, did a second surgery and got more of it after the pathology. And the weirdest thing about brain surgery, if you've never experienced it, is we were driving home to Las Vegas 3 days later after his second surgery, which is crazy because you think brain surgery, they're going to be in the hospital a long time, rehabilitation. James, he's like, where are my Legos? I'm ready to go. Right?
I remember he just wanted to play his Legos. Like, where's my Legos?
Yes, all he wanted was his
means
Legos.
he was still functioning. Obviously, things were, he seemed normal. Like there was
Oh yeah.
had
I mean,
no,
they like to scare you at the hospital. They make you sign paperwork that you don't ever want to sign as a parent, ever. And they make you sign this paperwork to protect themselves and all of that. But the moment that your child comes out of something like a 10-hour brain surgery, which he's done twice, you just think, they let you know, we're not sure who you're going to get back. And as soon as he started screaming, I have to go to the bathroom, I'm like, he's back, he's fine.
I think I recall, I remember he wanted pizza or something. He was
Oh, yeah.
hungry.
He was
So
hungry.
that's a good sign.
Yeah. So he, to me, mindset and the way you approach it is everything. If you're like, oh my gosh, this is, I mean, it is horrible, but you can't live in that space and just stay there. You've got to be able to move through that. And that's another importance about having people around you and reaching out for help. As you said, it's hard for a lot of people to ask for help. And whenever I find that I'm like, oh, I don't want to ask them for help, I think to myself, if they asked me for help, how would I feel? I would feel so good helping somebody. Like, it feels good to help people. So give that gift to somebody by asking for their help.
And so explain to our viewers what exactly is glioblastoma, because I don't think people understand the severity and the extent of it.
Yes. So one thing about glioblastoma, glioblastoma brain cancer is the deadliest of the adult brain cancers. Only one brain cancer that's more deadly, and that's DIPG in pediatrics. They gave James the average lifespan of what a glioblastoma patient has, which is 8 to 14 months. That's with treatment. If it goes untreated, it's usually about 3 months because the tumor doubles in size every 2 weeks. So James' tumor at 7 years old was a little bigger than a chicken egg, and his brain was barely bigger than that. It took up almost a quarter of one side of his brain. And so it's a grade 4, automatically glioblastoma is grade 4, which is different than stage 4. Stage 4 is, when it's metastasized through your body, but grade 4 is just the hypermutation of it. Usually you'll have like one gene mutation in a tumor or a couple. James, his particular tumor had 34 mutations.
Wow.
So he has 34 different gene mutations in that one tumor, which is why it's a hypermutating tumor and very difficult to treat because most chemos do not cross the blood-brain barrier. And so, yeah, it's a difficult one. That's for sure. It's a challenge, but James was up for the challenge at 7 years old. He's like, I got this.
Right. So emotionally, was he, I mean, obviously maybe was he scared? Was he like, okay, let's do it. Let's, what was his attitude? What was he feeling at the time during the surgeries?
It's funny because I think we had nobody ever wants to be diagnosed with cancer, but I think his age of being just barely 7 was an optimal age for that because he was old enough to be able to communicate with us. Because I've seen little babies and toddlers who can't communicate their pains and their needs. Mm-hmm. James was old enough to communicate with us, but he was young enough to not fully understand the severity of it. So he was like at that optimal age of he wasn't scared. And maybe that's just James because he's never scared.
Exactly.
Like he has, I don't know, he's very connected, has a lot of faith. And he just was like, I know what's going to happen and I know what's going to happen to me afterwards and I'm going to survive. And he did.
And what's really interesting is he always had a smile. I just remember even after the surgery, when Richard and I went to go see him, like he was smiling. He wanted his Legos. He was hungry and he's like, I just want his Legos. So, we got him some Legos and he was just sitting there. And of course the rest of us are just bawling.
Right.
But like, okay, he's fine. He's happy, so let's see, what's next. And the outpouring obviously of love and, prayers and everything that people had supported you was wonderful, but you also went a next step. You actually posted it on social media about his journey. So what made you decide to do that? What was the driving force for you to do that?
When I started posting on Facebook, I originally just kind of posted on my personal profile when we first went to the ER and things. And then I realized that it was starting to get shared. And people were wanting their circles to pray for James and send him love and positive vibes and all of that. So I thought, you know what? I don't necessarily want everybody coming to my profile. So I started James' Journey Facebook page. And I realized that for me, I've always been somebody who journals. When I was 19, I got the gift of the Artist's Way book. I don't know if you're familiar with the Artist's Way, but it's amazing. And so I started journaling back when I was younger and always have. And I realized that journaling by myself in this case was okay, but journaling on Facebook was able to give me feedback. And sometimes it was able to ground me by getting comments from other people. It was inspiring other people. It wasn't just about me anymore. This was about everybody. And, you know, people really started to care, and they still do. They very much love James and care about James. And, you know, he, at that time, I was like, we could use all the love we could get. So
Right. And
for me, it was healing.
You were just so open, honest, and vulnerable about, you know, the journey and sharing what he had gone through and every step of the way. And I think people, you know, were curious, not only curious, but they really, really care about James and what was going, and you and the family, what was going on and how they could support you. The outpour, I know in Las Vegas was great, but you connected with a lot of people who were going through a lot of the similar situation as James was. Can you share a couple without saying names, you know, that
Well, I'm
people—
like, I was about to get emotional because here we are, almost 8 years later, and I got a message last week on James' Journey Facebook, and it was somebody who said that their husband had been diagnosed with GBM, glioblastoma, years ago, like 5 years ago, and they feel like he is doing well because of James. And I'm still getting those messages. I'm like, I'm going to cry because it means everything to me that James has inspired others, you know. And when you were talking about James smiling when you got there, one of the biggest lessons that James really teaches me almost every day is being present in that moment. Like you said, we're all bawling like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he went through this, or he's going to go through this. And he's like, dude, I'm here right now, playing my Legos, and I have a smile, and this is where we're at. So just be right here with me and my Legos. And to this day, that's who he is. And it's the most amazing thing to watch. I've never witnessed somebody who just does that by nature.
Yeah, I also have to give you credit because as his mom, you know, he was only 7 at the time, but you did give him some your positivity, your energy, you know, you're open to possibilities and miracles, because you really said, you know, okay, we're gonna like, you really thought we're gonna find a solution to this. Like he is gonna get better. I mean, as if, right? You know, act as if.
Yeah.
You were like, okay, we're going to figure it out. You know, there was just no other situation. There's no other way it was going to go the other way. So that's what I love about, you know, your story and James' journey. But here's what's really interesting. What did you learn about yourself during this journey? And I know you, so I know you've been through a lot. You know, you're my soul sister, but you know, this was also a journey for you as a mom, as a parent. You know, how was it for you?
And, you know, it's never ending. So I'm not there yet. You know, it's like, it's continuous. But one of the biggest things, there's a few things that I really did learn about myself. I have always been very independent and do things on my own, you know, be like, I got this, I don't need any help. And when I did start posting on Facebook, when I did start sharing the vulnerability, and a lot of times my writings on Facebook, I was trying to work through something within myself, like, oh, I'm going into a bad place, so I'm going to write about it. And by the end of the writing, it shifted. Yeah. And so I realized that I can share myself more vulnerable and receive that help. And I don't have to do it alone. I don't have to not only physically do things by myself, like I had people helping me with my dishes or watching my daughter. So those kinds of things people helped with, but I also got help emotionally, mentally, spiritually from others that normally I would not have shared. You know, I would have been like, I can do this, but I don't want anybody to see that side. I don't want people to know that I'm struggling, and I can get myself out of it. So to me, that was one of the biggest learnings, was the help is out there in all the ways. You know, I was a single mom when he got diagnosed. And the social worker sat down with James' dad and I and said, one of you is not going to be able to work, period, until James is better. And I'm thinking, I don't understand. I'm a single mom. I can't afford to not work.
Right.
And the resources showed up. It's a trust. Trust is another big thing that I learned, because
Trust and faith.
resources showed up. Yeah, faith and trust. And we were in the hospital every other week for 26 months. That's over 2 years. And I could not work. And the days that we were not in the hospital, James was throwing up and sick, and it was not fun. This was not he had a chemo called irinotecan, and the nurses and everybody called it, I run to the can. Because that's what it makes you do. And that's how we spent 2 years, so it was awful. I don't wish this on my worst enemy. But the lessons and the love that came from it, I wish that on everybody.
So one of the things that I know you had asked me was to support you holistically. And I remember the first time I discovered these essential oils, I call it magic oils, right? And I said, okay, I'm going to send you some essential oils. And I send you this package. You look at it, you're like, okay, what am I supposed to do with this? Like,
right.
What is this for? And I said, well, I think it was frankincense, right? Because frankincense is actually the oil for cancer. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, rub it on his head, have him smell it. And I recall the first response you gave me was, oh my God, these oils aren't for James. They're actually for me. They're here to help me emotionally, because, you're smelling them maybe for the first time and thinking, oh my God, these are, actually soothing or calming. But one of the oils, I think his favorite oils to this day, I don't know if it still is, but it was peppermint. Mm-hmm. Right. And peppermint is the oil of a buoyant heart.
Yes.
And so he always had that with him. I remember that rock. Remember the rock?
Yes.
The oil, and he would take it with him. So did he use the oils during his treatments alternatively, as well as with the, radiation and chemo?
Oh yeah, the oils were huge. At first I was like, oh, these smell nice. That's great. Yeah. And then the more I researched and learned about the properties and the healing effects of oils, not a day went by that we didn't use the oils. And James truly knew instinctively what oils he needed. We used ginger for his nausea. We used pepper. He loved the peppermint for nausea. And because he had a port, and they cleaned the port with alcohol before they accessed it every time. And so James always had an oil because he hated that. And when they flush your port, for those of you that don't know, you have a port here, so you don't have to get an IV every time. And then they flush it with saline solution, and James could taste it.
Yes.
And he was like, oh, I don't like this. Right. And there were some weeks where he would get his port access like 4 times in a week. Wow. Because they would de-access it, and then he would end up sick. So he would always have an oil to combat the taste, the smells. He didn't want to smell the hospitals. He didn't want to smell those things. In radiation, he had his radiation mask. And you have to remember, this is a 7-year-old little boy going in to be bolted down to a table for 20 minutes at a time, all alone in a room. And so he would put oils under his nose or on his radiation mask. And he says that that's where he learned how to meditate. He taught himself meditation during radiation. Yeah. And the nurses could always smell when James was at the hospital, because we were diffusing oils, and they were like, James must be here, because we didn't want that smell. He didn't want to be reminded all the time that he's in the hospital. So we made it fun.
Did you also give him like a cocktail of essential oils in the morning?
Yes, he also took, we did the research and we're very careful about ingesting the oils, but I would make a capsule with specific oils to help. Frankincense, and especially frankincense boswellia, is very well known for reducing inflammation and brain swelling. James never once had steroids through his cancer journey, which is extremely rare. Extremely rare. So he was very lucky, and I attribute that. I don't know for a fact. I don't have peer-reviewed studies, but the oils, he was doing the oil. We were doing everything. When they tell you that your child with treatment is going to live for 8 to 14 months, you're like, I'll do whatever it takes. You do anything and everything that does not hurt him. And we did. And so much of it, I just attribute his survival and everything, to his attitude, his faith, the holistic things we added, and along with the standard of care, the chemo and radiation. I will never regret doing that for him because we wanted to try it all.
And so you've reached out to so many different practitioners, doctors, not all doctors are the same. So do you have a team of doctors now that you work with?
Yeah, it's, April 4th will mark 8 years since that fateful day at the ER. And we were so fortunate to get an open-minded oncologist. He's worked with a couple neuro-oncologists, which are different. They specialize in brain cancers. And then we have the oncologist. He has epileptologist. We have a neuropsychologist. We actually just made an appointment today for a neuropsych exam, the second one. I mean, the amount of doctors he has is like insane. He has an MRI still every 3 months. He goes in for an MRI. And the one thing I can tell people who get a diagnosis that scares them, or there's something in their gut that doesn't agree with the doctor, search for another doctor. They don't all know, they're just people too. They don't know everything all the time. And if somebody isn't a fit, it's not a fit.
Right.
You can fire your doctor. You can ask for another opinion. You can be an advocate. Some people say, how did you get a team around you of doctors to look at his MRIs and his genetics? Because when he was first diagnosed, and it was really scary, and I was like, should we do more? Should we do less? What do we do? Is this the right treatment plan? He ended up having his tumor discussed among 6 oncologists, one from Cincinnati, one from Seattle, one from UCLA here, St. Jude's, and Boston Children's Hospital. So we had all these oncologists together, would all look at the MRIs and see what's going on. People say, how did you make that happen? And I've never been a type of person to do this, but I would look up, do my research online to find who is the pediatric neuro-oncologist at this hospital, because I've heard it's good. And I would call and ask for that doctor. And I would email that doctor. And it was shocking to me how many responded and wanted to talk to me.
Yes.
And were willing to help. Again, it's about reaching out for help. Because I said, what's the worst that's going to happen? They'll say no.
They'll say no.
People don't realize you can call a hospital and just ask for a doctor. And sometimes the gatekeeper will just pass you through unknowingly. Maybe it's their first day. They don't know they're not supposed to.
But you won't know until you ask and reach out for help, because again, it's like, oh, well, maybe it's not in my insurance plan, or maybe it's not that. But like you said, your son is diagnosed with glioblastoma. You are going to do whatever and anything it takes to find all the resources, all the doctors, all the, alternative holistic therapies to support your son in getting better, which you did. So that's the thing. I think most people are not aware of, like so let's say a family gets diagnosed. What maybe 3 to 5 things that you could recommend to them as, a cancer wellness person advocate for pediatrics, because you are definitely that person, that go-to that people now, ask for guidance.
Yes, like I said, I get messages all the time and I respond to every single one of them. So the number one thing, if your child or family member gets diagnosed, reach out, start joining Facebook groups that are specific to that kind of cancer. Start researching what kind of hospital. Go into those Facebook groups and search for, people talking about doctors or hospitals and who is the best here and who is the best there. And don't be afraid to just ask. I mean, to me, that's the number one thing, is finding community that understands, because nobody can understand what you're going through. Your family can't, your friends can't. It's only somebody else who's been in your shoes with this kind of a thing that can be there for you in that way. So yeah, just start joining the Facebook groups. And if there's somebody that you're like, wow, they have a really great success story, private message them. Just do it. I don't care how many followers they have or how big they are, just message them. You'd be shocked at who responds. I'm always there for people who have glioblastoma, pediatric, adult, any of them. I'm there. I'm there for any pediatric cancers, and I'll point you in the right direction. So Don't be afraid to ask for help. That's number one. Number 2 is again, being present in the moment. You know, when you worry, you're focusing on your nightmare instead of your dream. So if you get stuck in that worry, your child is going to feel that. So it stinks and it's really, really hard, but you just have to push through sometimes and say, okay, it's going to be okay. You know, we're here right now and they're good. They're good today. They're good in this moment. And, you know, so you be very, very present. And by the way, you let the dishes go. If your kid wants to snuggle, you snuggle.
Exactly.
And that's it. You know, you're like, those can wait. You prioritize. And the third is to receive the resources that show up. You know, I will tell a little story of how my pride in the beginning very much got in the way. And again, I had to quit working. I was paying for health insurance, and the first 9 months cost us over $50,000 out of pocket. And day one, not day one, but in the beginning, met another cancer mom whose daughter had the same cancer as James. And she said, reach out to Social Security and Medicaid and social worker. And I was like, no, that's not for me. I can make my own money. I can pay for my own stuff. And it cost me $50,000 out of pocket because of my pride. You know, little did I know that glioblastoma was an automatic qualifier for James to get covered and get the best care that he needed. So, you know, that was just something you've got to let go sometimes to things like that and realize that the help is out there and it's there for a reason. And it's not you taking advantage of anything. You're helping your family and you're helping your child survive. So that was a big one. Even that's hard.
Huge. I know that is a huge testament that you just said right there, because again, asking for help is difficult for some people. And, you know, especially if it's for you or your family or someone who's ill. And you've done that so eloquently, I have to say, because not only are you sharing your story, people can hear it, see it, you know, you'll post photos and videos of James and his progress, so people understand that you are real, like this isn't a scam or anything. So you are going through this, your family is going through this, and now they can support you in other ways, not just financially, but support in other ways. And I know the community in Las Vegas has been a huge support for James. Is that right?
Oh yeah, community out here has been absolutely amazing. We are so blessed. And, you know, there are childhood cancer foundations out there that they want to help you. That's why they're there. Like I said, it's actually very vulnerable for me to even share this part of our journey, because I don't share that part very often of how much we've, you know, relied on others to help us through. And, you know, the foundations, I will tell you, James now is almost 15.
Yes.
And so he participates every month in Teen Scene with one of the childhood cancer foundations and Candlelighters.
Oh.
And, you know, Candlelighters has been there for us for some really fun times and for some support and for therapy and different things. But it wasn't until James became a teenager and joined Teen Scene that I really, really saw how important they are, because he's a different person when he hangs out with those kids. It's only diagnosed children. And they're all teens, and they will go bowling. They'll go to the movies. They stayed overnight in the penthouse at Red Rock. And James is like super outgoing, the life of the party. Yeah. Everybody's like, oh my God, James is so, like, he had so much fun. That at regular high school, he's a little bit more reserved and he feels a little bit different, you know? And so it's really neat to see how these organizations truly care and they want to help. So, you know, allow them to help and then give back when you can.
Yeah. Now you spoke about therapy, and here's, you know, a little bit more sensitive subject. Cancer affects the entire family. Mm-hmm. It's never just the person who's going through it. So were you know, was James able to get therapy? I know he has a sister. His sister is Juju. How was she during this process? And I know she's been a big support of her brother. She loves her brother. And then, you know, you as a mom and you as a family unit, it's affected all of you. And I know your life partner, Mike, as well, has gone through it with you. So have you all, you know, were able to receive therapy? Was Juju able to, and as a family unit, how did that work for you?
So Candlelighters offered therapy. And so the kids together, they did garden therapy. There was a garden where they would plant fruits and vegetables and play with the earthworms and things and do therapy there with the licensed therapist who would talk with them through things. And I think that helped. And then James, he did EMDR therapy, which I don't know, what all went on in there because I wasn't there, but he was about 9 when he did EMDR, and he will say that that really, really helped him a lot.
Share with our viewers what EMDR is.
So EMDR is eye movement desensitization recovery.
Mhm.
Yeah, something like that. But EMDR is where basically you process trauma. They help you reprocess the trauma that you went through. And so James went through that and did that. And Juju, she seemed to be doing really well, and she was, doing her thing. And it wasn't until 6 months ago that I had a dear friend who said, "You've never processed the trauma." All these years later, she's like, "You need EMDR. You need to
Right.
get yourself in therapy," because I actually did not do therapy. I think I tried like once and I was like, "I'm too busy. I've got stuff going on. I got to focus on my kids." Right. And so realizing and coming to accept the fact that it is a trauma that I went through. Our whole family, cancer is a family diagnosis. We went through some trauma, and I did some EMDR. I'm still in the process of, and I will tell you, it's absolutely life changing. So whether it's big trauma, little trauma, cancer trauma, whatever it is, if you've got something that's keeping you stuck, it's an amazing kind of therapy. So I do have a regular therapist, although I just found out he's moving, so I have to find a new one. But it's been very important. And I just started therapy, like I said, about 6 months ago. And Juju just started therapy 2 weeks ago. So
Great.
we are in the process of processing, because sometimes it takes years to realize where you're at.
And the blessing in this is that he is here with us, 7, almost 8 years later, which by all accounts it's a miracle, like literally, because they literally, the doctors gave him 14 months to live.
Yeah.
So, in this whole journey, his whole process, the journey that you've all gone through, James is almost like this little spiritual guru now. Because the things that he says now really resonates with us being, and you can share this too, that he really wants us to be happy, like in every moment, and that life is full, and that, we really should just be joyful all the time, which he is. He just has this amazing presence about him, and the realization that, life is short, but we should enjoy every moment, every day.
Absolutely. Yes. And I will tell you, you've not heard the last of James. That's for sure. He just told me like 2 days ago, he says, "Mom, I need to start gathering all my stuff." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He said, "My notes on my phone and on my computer." He's like, "I have videos and notes." He said, "I want to do like a podcast or something. I have like 2-minute things all over." He's like, "I don't want to write a book because it's like long." He's like, "But I have like little 2-minute things I want to share with people about how to live." And so, yeah. He's got plenty to share, and he wants to do a TED Talk someday. So,
Well, I believe he will do that. I believe he will do it. So how is James doing today? How is he doing right now?
well, cancer-wise, he is cancer-free and will be for the rest of his life, according to me and all of us. But he is doing amazing. He is in all honors classes as a freshman in high school. He's on the archery team. He does struggle some with epilepsy. And he has, as a side effect from everything he's been through. So at the end of May, he will be having another brain surgery to help with his seizures. And we are hoping that will close the door on this chapter of his life. And within 2 years after that, he'll get rid of any medications that he's on, and he'll start to learn how to drive, and he'll graduate high school healthy and just like every other kid there. That's the plan.
And we send you all the love and energy, and definitely that he will grow up to not just be driving, but, eventually having a girlfriend and getting married and all the wonderful things that every child should have. So definitely send you all those blessings for a wonderful long life, because he really, really deserves it. I will say that as a mom and as your friend, your sister friend, I have seen so much growth in you all these years, and that you have been such a rock and a foundation for him and for your, the cancer pediatric community. So well done. I just want to give you that kudos and acknowledgement, because you really have made a difference in so many people's life. You and James have made such an impact in the pediatric cancer community. But I want you to share a fact about pediatric cancer and how it's not as well funded as some other cancers that are out there.
Yes, only 4% of cancer funding goes to pediatric cancer. And these kids are our future. To me, I'm like, that's our future, is the kids. And especially brain cancer does not get any recognition and funding because the statistics are not there. But pediatric cancer is so underfunded, and these kids deserve so much more. They're worth more than 4%. I can tell you that right now. And every 46 minutes, I believe, a child is diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah.
And it is not as rare as you think it is. And these kids are amazing kids, and they deserve to live long lives, and they deserve the funding and the research. And pediatric cancer is different than adult cancers. It's very different in the way they need to be treated. So yeah, it's kind of a gruesome statistic that our kids aren't worth more than 4%.
Right. And that's a scary, scary fact right there, because if we don't take care of our children now, they won't have a future. And so we really have to focus on pediatric cancer, all cancers for children. Is there a national organization that people can donate to, or is there an organization that you're working with that people can support and donate?
The ACCO, which is the American Childhood Cancer Organization, they're a really great one for research, as well as St. Baldrick's. St. Baldrick's is all about the funding and the research. But I will say that this is like, I'm trying to figure out the way to say it, because you can donate to St. Baldrick's and ACCO for the funding and the research for the big picture. But if you want to immediately help, find a local childhood cancer organization and help the families directly, because a lot of those organizations will help the families directly. And when you're going through the journey, that means everything. Our Christmases were amazing because of organizations helping us out. People that would just donate little things and just volunteer for the 5Ks and things like that. But yeah, the local communities, there are always local organizations. Michael Jordan just donated $10 million to Make-A-Wish. So find a smaller local organization to donate to. I love Make-A-Wish, by the way. Love them. We're doing their walk in a couple months, James.
Oh, wonderful.
Very involved. Yeah, love Make-A-Wish.
So where can people find you on?
So they can find me right now. It's me, but eventually it will convert over to James at James Journey LV on Facebook and Instagram.
Yay.
And Etsy. He also has an Etsy shop.
Oh, yes. So tell us what he's doing now, because obviously he's made some wonderful things.
Yes, he is a very, very passionate woodworker. He does wood burnings and he makes pens.
Oh, I have to show the pen. Hold on.
I think I have a wood burning right here.
So yes, this is the pen. I mean, absolutely.
And here's a Golden Knights wood burning that
This
he did.
Unbelievable. Like how he is doing this is it's actually very it's not light. It's actually pretty heavy and has some density in there, but it's gorgeous. So he's doing these, and yes, he's hands-on for sure.
Yeah,
with his hands.
Oh yeah, he wants to be a carpenter. That's his dream, is to make custom tables and then wood burn on the top of them. I mean, he's very passionate about his woodworking, and I love that because it's like a meditation for him.
It's a meditation.
Yeah, so he's all about healing and being calm. And like, if you ever get to meet James, he's just, like Ann said, he's got this presence about him that is just very calming. He doesn't want to be stressed out ever.
Well, you know what? And he shouldn't, because he's gone through it enough already. And, I understand where he's coming from, because I've had my share of, surgeries, but it's really about living life to your fullest every day, because you never know when or if today is your last day. So every day is a gift, right?
Absolutely. Every day is a gift, and keep faith over fear. And like I said, just, live in the moment.
And so with that, you are a gift. You are a gift to me, and you are a gift to everyone that has gone through, their cancer journey. And so I want to thank you so much for being here at Women's Wellness That Works and sharing your story. I know this is just a continuance. There's going to be more, so I can't wait. Maybe we'll have James over as well to share some of his spiritual insights and everything that he's doing too with you. So that would be great too. But I thank you so much. I'm going to give you some last words. Is there anything, the last words that you want to share with anyone, or anything that you want to share?
Well, thank you so much, Anne. Thank you for having me here at Women's Wellness That Works. You do an incredible job of sharing and just letting people know that there's more than one way to heal. And so thank you so much. Thank you for being my friend, my goddess sister, and inviting me here today. And I just want to say, I'm here for anybody who has to go through anything on the cancer journey. As a cancer wellness expert, if I don't know the answer, I can help research and point you in the direction that you need to go, because nobody deserves to go through this kind of journey alone. So
absolutely. Yeah, exactly. And, this is just the beginning of so many things that I know that you're going to be doing, and James will be doing in the near future. So we're excited to share that also as they come up. But have a wonderful, wonderful day, everyone. Remember, every woman has her story. What's your story? Have a great day. And thank you again, Amy. We'll see you again soon.
Bye.